Ms. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the witnesses. I thank you for your patience. I know it's been a long day, but certainly the topic is worthy of that time and probably more times of discussion before we ultimately vote. To Mr. Floyd and Ms. Underwood Jacobs, we certainly accompanying your grief. I know you and I visited just a little bit at the funeral yesterday in Houston. Please know that you have my heartfelt condolences. You know, I have 5 brothers. You know, sometimes they beat up on me a little bit, and sometimes they were helpful, and sometimes they were just brothers. So I know how important that is, so I grieve with you. Mr. Chairman, I wish that we were here today under different circumstances. Instead, we're here because our nation is struggling to heal after witnessing the horrific murder of George Floyd. As a person of faith, I was taught at an early age that we are all children of God. George Floyd was not treated as a child of God during his final moments on this earth. Mr. Floyd, I stand with you and your family, and I stand with Black and brown Americans and all Americans across the country who just want to live and breathe without fear. I stand with my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus as we demand for America to live up to its values. We can no longer continue living in America that says during the Pledge of Allegiance, justice for all, but then not actually guarantee justice for all. We must put an end to police brutality, racial profiling, white supremacy, and racism in America. We are here today because our laws must boldly affirm that Black lives matter. I want to get to the topic of the case itself, the investigation, and what may or may not happen, because I think that the Justice and Policing Act addresses a lot of the issues that I've seen as a lawyer, a former judge, when some of these cases are handled. I also might add that I served as the first chair of the Police Independent Oversight Board in Houston. I helped Mayor Parker put that together, then she made me chair for 2 years. So I've seen some of these cases, and some of them are tough to make. And in your case, Mr. Floyd, I think that it was good that there was swift action. The police officer was arrested. It took a little time before they arrested the others. But in many cases, the Arbery case, he was out jogging 74 days before an arrest. And just recently we saw in the video that was just released in Williamson County, an incident that happened in March of 2019. The arrest was actually delayed, and the video was even more delayed. They just released it last week, although it happened in March of 2019, a year later. So sometimes it's not quick enough, and then we wonder why. So I wanted to ask first Ms. Eiffel, if she's still with us by video. In terms of investigations, are we adequately addressing the need for an independent investigation in the Justice and Policing Act?
Yes, this is one of the most important parts of the legislation. It is critical that committees feel that these killings and these abuses are investigated by someone who is independent, who is not connected with the local prosecutor's office, and who can bring fresh eyes to bear on whether there was a violation of the Constitution or a violation of criminal law. And in too many places around the country, we have seen these incidents where prosecutors have demonstrated that they are unwilling to robustly lean into an investigation, unwilling to arrest, unwilling to indict, or if they bring the case before the grand jury, we then hear later that the presentation was lackluster and was not the kind of presentation we would expect of a prosecutor. So we need independence.
I want to move quickly if we can.
There is a colossal lack of confidence right now in the justice system, and it is deserved. And as a lawyer, I can say it pains me because I have dedicated my life as a civil rights lawyer to using the law to affect change. But what you are seeing on the streets of this country, all over this country, is a colossal lack of confidence in the justice system. And it is incumbent upon this body in this legislation to put together the means of restoring that confidence. And that confidence only comes back if the justice system can be said to be fair, can be said to be legitimate, and can be said to produce just results. And when it comes to cases of police killing unarmed African Americans, at this point, we do not have those three.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I did have a question for Mr. Crump and Ms. Gupta, but I'll submit them in writing. I yield back my time.
The gentlelady yields back.
Great senators. Hi, Chuck. He used to love me when I was a Democrat, you know.